Stop the FOMO. Which is the absolute best flagship OLED TV of 2023? Is it the Samsung S95C, Sony A95L, or the LG G3? Today, all three TVs will be compared side by side. From sports, streaming Netflix, Dolby Vision, and oh so much more. What about next-gen console gaming? PS5 anybody? And of course, no TV is perfect. At the end, we'll go over the use cases for each TV that best fits your needs. And today's video is brought to you by Whokeys. Trying to build a PC on a budget but don't know where to buy your Windows 10 software on the cheap? Whokeys to the rescue! Use my code SF20 and immediate discount. At the bottom of this order where it says code card, to the right is the product key you need to activate Windows. So copy this long number, then go to the Windows menu and click on Settings. In the Settings menu at the bottom, select Update and Security. Select Activation, then select Change Product Key, paste what you copied from Whokeys, click Next, click Activate, and you're done. You can download a copy of Windows 11 Pro with my discount code SF20 and bam! Before we start with the side-by-side comparisons, as far as calibration and accuracy go, both the Samsung S95C and LG G3 were professionally calibrated, but the Sony A95L has not been calibrated, and it's amazingly close to the other TVs. No calibration is needed for this Sony flagship. First up, sports with their internal app, specifically the YouTube TV app for watching live sports. Both the S95C and G3 are in standard mode, as this avoids the crazy neon colors of Samsung's dynamic mode and LG's vivid modes while still being bright. On the other hand, the Sony A95L is in vivid mode because its colors are still natural in its brightest mode. And even then though, its brightness in vivid mode falls just short of the brightness of the other two TVs. However, despite not being as bright, its XR clear and image processing appears to be clearer, a little bit sharper, and this is still true regardless of the different smoothing functions of the other two TVs. In standard mode, the A95L brightness is just a little bit dimmer, so toggling back and forth, you'll see that vivid is slightly brighter without a hit to color accuracy. But let's put all three TVs in their brightest mode: dynamic S95C, vivid on the A95L, and vivid on the LG G3. A bit brighter on the S95C and the LG G3, but the sharpness and clarity, the XR clear, is definitely working on the A95L, the best image processor when dealing with low bitrate content or questionable internet connections, like on YouTube TV or maybe your cable box. What about YouTube TV in HDR on an external streamer, like my Google Chromecast? This time, all three TVs are in their brightest crazy mode: S95C in dynamic and vivid mode for the A95L and G3. Quite the neon green on the G3 and S95C, eh? But if you need it bright, those two deliver. Now, how does the A95L's internal app in SDR, YouTube TV, compare to HDR on the S95C and G3? Let's see. The A95L above is in SDR, below is HDR. For all three TVs, SDR and HDR have similar brightness in sports content like YouTube TV. However, with HDR, the specular highlights are a little bit brighter. The whites, the bright colors, they pop a little bit. What's your choice? Let me know in the comments below. Next up is Netflix HDR versus Dolby Vision, but actually we're doing something different this time because I've confirmed already that in their most accurate picture modes, Dolby Vision Dark on the A95L or Dolby Vision Cinema on the G3, they look nearly identical to their HDR10 counterparts. What we'll be comparing today is, for most people in normally lit living rooms, you actually prefer watching Dolby Vision bright on the Sony and Cinema Home Dolby Vision on the G3, but how do they compare to the S95C, showing the same Netflix scene in filmmaker mode with tone mapping on active? Let's check it out. And please ignore the slight blue tint on the LG G3 because WOLED hypes up the blue on my camera. Specular highlights are nearly identical on all three TVs. Short of pulling out a meter, very difficult to distinguish, even side by side. Now, the A95L, even in Dolby Vision Bright, you'll notice in some scenes that it's not quite as bright as the G3's Cinema Home, but this is preference and you always have Dolby Vision Vivid. Maybe not. Let's reserve that for sports. And a big thank you to YouTuber Gaming Tech for helping me fine-tune the settings on these TVs. Please check out his channel for the best in TV and game settings for PC, Xbox, and PS5. Speaking of PS5, let's begin the comparisons. Since many of you love HDR gaming on the Samsung S95C and S90C with tone mapping set to active, even though static is closer to HGIG, we'll use active as the popular benchmark for brightness and vibrancy, but we will also explore the other image settings on all TVs for you to compare. The Sony A95L is set to standard with gradation preferred. No, brightness preferred does very little, and off makes it look dimmer and slightly washed out. And in this first comparison, the LG G3 will be set with dynamic tone mapping on, but do not fear, HGIG will also be compared for the purists. You'll notice that the S95C has slightly warmer colors than the other two TVs, but that can be easily changed with different settings as you'll see when we play with them. I love using Dirt 5 for my comparisons because it offers brightness, shadow detail, vibrant colors, and high dynamic contrast scenes. At this point, I would say all three TVs look phenomenal. Definitely for PS5 HDR gaming, I would take any of these TVs. Now, rather than bore you by diving into each TV setting variation one by one, I'm going to let Gaming Tech or Brian's Tech Therapy do that for you. Instead, I'm going to scroll through all of them real fast and you can see or pause how changing each TV's settings changes everything. And for the LG fanboys, yes, HGIG is coming up, so you can see how that differs from dynamic tone mapping. As gaming is a personal preference depending on whether you're playing first-person shooter, RTS, Gran Turismo, or Final Fantasy, it appears that all these TVs have enough settings to satisfy console gamers. Now for PC gamers, all three TVs are gsync compatible, while only the S95C and S90C are capable of HDR10 Plus gaming. But the G3 and Sony A95L have Dolby Vision gaming, so maybe that's a wash. Also remember the A95L's Dolby Vision gaming feature requires a future firmware update not currently available at launch. And in the comments below, don't forget to let me know which of these settings you like. And as promised, let's check out the G3's popular HGIG game mode for the gaming purists, because creator's intent is a thing. As you can see in the bottom window, the PS5 was HDR calibrated with the G3 in HGIG mode. Let's see how that compares to the same modes we saw before above. And I'd like to stop right here at this turn, look into the clouds. HGIG on the G3 nails it. That's dynamic tone mapping. That's dynamic range. See that bright specular highlight? Awesome. Now I see why purists like HGIG. The entire scene isn't necessarily brighter. It's that dynamic range that this scene demonstrates why HGIG is a big thing for LG G3 gamers. Let's wrap this up. Here are my conclusions for each TV and their best use case, beginning with the Samsung S95C and nearly identical S90C. Both are generally great for everything from gaming to sports to HDR movies and streaming, and the S90C price makes it a must buy. See why it's my editor's choice TV in this video up here. However, the S95C had the softest upscaling of low bitrate content, and its motion always has a touch of soap opera if you want to eliminate stutter. And if Dolby Vision is important to you, S95C doesn't do it. But as you saw, not a big deal. TV audio is average at best, but I do like the snappy Tizen interface this year. The LG G3 has the brightest sports mode, whether standard or vivid, and the G3 is the Bright Room victor, even if only by a small margin. It also has that 5-year panel replacement warranty, the longest in the industry. The WebOS interface is also very responsive. However, unlike the S95C out of the box, the G3 does require a bit of tinkering to get the colors just right. And sadly, its TV audio is the most anemic, the absolute worst of the bunch. You definitely need a soundbar with this TV. And lastly, the Sony Flagship A95L is the cinema purist's dream, because out of the box, the colors were outstanding. Even if it's not the brightest for sports, it had the best image processor when your source is YouTube TV or anything with a sus connection. But the most impressive improvement for HDR movie enthusiasts is the bright specular highlights. Yes, for the first time ever in its most accurate professional picture mode with gradation preferred on, it showed brighter specular highlights in The Witcher on Netflix in HDR10. Now, would the A95L still be the brightest in HDR once calibrated? Find out at the shootout happening next week on September 30th, right here. We'll be broadcasting live all week. Until next time, stop the FOMO.